Hello, y'all. Welcome again to the Roth Talk podcast where we talking that talk. And guess what? I'm back. That's right, man. We are here at season 3, episode 1 with my guy, the one and other Mike Frenke. We gonna wait for my guy to pull up real quick. But before he does that, man, make sure y'all go over to my YouTube and go to Roth Talk Podcast over to on my YouTube, and make sure you go over there and check out my previous interviews. I got so many dope interviews on the way. Sounds a little funky. Fix that. What about now? Can you hear me now? Good now. Can you hear me now? Alright, so it's on good now. So again, hold on. Let me get my what up though? There we go. Can you hear me now? Still a little funky. Still a little funky. We good? We good? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? We good? Give me the. There we go. Okay. All right. Better? Better? All right. Good, good. I'm waiting for Unc to pull up. He just hit me. So let me send him the invite. And we going to get this thing cranked. All right. Yep. Well, again, I am back. The Roth Talk podcast is back. I have took a little break. I was on hiatus, but I'm back now. So again, make sure y'all go over to YouTube and check out my previous interviews. Unc is on the way. So I'm waiting for him to pull up real quick. Matter of fact, let me send him this email this way. Let me see. You know, I'm dealing with a player, my old player again. So let me get him. There we go. Let me get him straight. And in the meantime, go ahead and check out the other podcasts where I have the legendary Bob Sumner, the legendary Paul Porter, you know what I'm saying, Tanisha Kelly, Urko, man, Keys, my guy Keys. I got so many dope people that I have interviewed right here on this podcast. So go over to YouTube and make sure you go do that. I'm trying to get Unc in the room right now, so we wait for Unc to pull up. And we're gonna see what's cooking with that, man. But again, the Roth Talk podcast where we talk that talk, man. I have been doing this now, coming up on my 3rd year. So that's why this is my 3rd season. I've had man, I think I'm over 40 some interviews. So man, I'm cooking. I'm cooking right now for the podcast. And I got some more dope people pulling up. Like I said, next week, on the earlier podcast, next week I will be having Chili Mac on the show. He will be on the show next week, letting people know about what he got cooking with a lot of dope artists. So next Tuesday, 8 p.m., Chili Mac will be in the building right here on the Roth Talk podcast. Then I got some more special guests that's going to be coming on later within the year. You know, Roth trying to get syndicated. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get syndicated. I'm trying to be on the web, online. I'm trying to be everywhere. So, again, yeah, let me see what my guy is doing right here. You know, sheesh. All right, let me copy the link. Let me text him. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right. There we go. There we go. We up in here. My guy here. Hello, hello. Now we about to get spicy. Oh, where'd he go? He was in there. Oh my God. Unc left. There we go. Let's see if Unc come back real quick. There we go. Unc, you in the building? You there? All right, there we go. I sent you the invite. There we go.
Am I in there?
You in there? Can you hear me?
Man, I can hear you. What's going on with you, Pippin?
What's up, Unc? What's up, my guy?
Salute. What's the weather like in VA, man? Is it cold?
You know it's cold in VA. You know that. You know this is fake New York. This is fake North right here in Virginia. You know
Man,
that.
I talked to my son today. He was like, "Yeah, Dad, it's a little chilly today." I was like, "Yeah, I get it. It's cold here, shit."
Man, listen, you
It's cold
already
in
know,
Los
man.
Angeles.
How y'all doing over there in LA, man? What's the weather out there? Oh shoot. Man, I lost Unc again. Did I lose him again? Come on back, Unc. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah, drowning. We down here drowning and shit. We flooding out the game.
I thought it never rained in Southern California.
Yeah, they made that shit up. Shit. Real talk. What you been working on?
Well, hold on. We better get this thing started now. Let me properly introduce you, and we're going to get to it. We're going to properly get to it. So, again, salute. Shout out to everybody tuning in to the Roth Talk podcast where we talk that talk. And I brought one of the ultimate talkers on the show. Man, oh, man, I cannot wait to hear what my uncle got to say. He has done a lot of amazing work throughout the years. I cannot wait to the gems that's going to be told, and I cannot wait for the stories.
It's the years part that kind of spooks me a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, God,
but go ahead and briefly introduce yourself for those who've been living under the rock for the last couple of years. Can you introduce yourself for the people?
I've been living under the rock, so I get it. But you know, my name is Michael Frenke. I've been making records and doing live sound reinforcement and sound for film and television for this is my 45th year. Damn. Worked with a lot of people from a lot of different genres of music, everything from rock and roll to metal to hip hop to R&B and funk and everything in between. Main titles for television shows: Sister Sister, Moesha, Ned Stacy, C. Bear and Jamal. Bunch of shit. 1979, I started the business as an intern for Graham Nash at Rudy Records, which is in Crossroads of the World now. It's called Aftermaster, actually, or last I checked. I mean, you know, rooms in LA, they change ownership all the time. I know one room in particular that has gone through 4 different owners, but they've stood the test of time. The structures have stood the test of time, which is a testimony to the architects and the builders who built those spaces, because you know, I think what's East-West now in Los Angeles, I think that was Ocean Way back in the day. That was Alan Side's room. Studio 56 was Golden Sound, then it turned into Rocksteady, then it turned, you know, these rooms, they flip all the time, but the structures remain.
Yes, sir.
Know.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know the nature of the business that we're in, so, you know, it fluctuates, it ebbs and flows.
Well, no, I'm ready to start this thing up, man.
Hey, man, look, don't be laughing at my purple balloons and shit, all right? It's not like I'm a Prince fan or something. My wife's birthday, you know, these are birthday balloons.
Yeah.
Her favorite color is purple, so I don't want to hear none of that Prince shit and all that goofy shit. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, y'all? I'm glad y'all here.
But at least you got the hoodie matching. Oh, the hoodie matching.
Yeah, that's what's ironic, because, you know, Abbott's colors are purple.
Yep.
And my wife's favorite color is purple.
Yep.
And I'm an Abbott Music Creation Committee member. So it just kind of like all falls in sync. I don't want nobody from no gang or nothing to be like, yo, he must be from Grape Street.
He from Grape
or
Street.
Some shit like that. You know, and I was just in Watts too, taking pictures and shit, having fun. So no, I'm not affiliated with, you know, active gang members at this point in my life.
At this point. But hold on.
What's going on?
We're going to throw it. We're going back now. I need you to take it back to the beginning. I always like to start and ask my guests on the show, how did you get to this point? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times your childhood and your beginning kind of like led you to where you're at now. So let's talk about a young Mike. Let's talk about your childhood. Now, were you ever like in church playing music?
No,
did you ever be in a group?
When I was in elementary school, my mom had me taking a piano class, you know, from a private teacher for a minute. And I always loved music, but eventually, as a teen, I ended up becoming a dancer, right? And that's what led me to my very first recording studio.
Okay.
I got a job in Atlanta as a dancer working for the World of Sid Marty Krofft, which was the world's first indoor amusement park. And it's in the CNN building, what is now CNN in Atlanta. That building was the World of Sid Marty Krofft. And Sid Marty Krofft were puppeteers and writers and TV producers and stuff. They did like HR puppet stuff and all that kind of stuff. And we were dancing, you know, street dancers. And we had to go to a studio that's still there on Highland and Sunset. It was called TT&G at the time. I have no idea what it's called now. But when I went in that space, I was like, yo, this is home. It just resonated with me. Like, it just, you know, it was like, yo, this is home. You know, what's up, Eli? Billboard beat, rap star, y'all. So I go into this control room to sequence the songs for our show, right? And I just strike up a kinship with the engineers because they were so cool. And then because they also were the sound designers for the park, for the amusement park in Atlanta. So they came to Atlanta. They came to Atlanta because they shared. That building has a very unique history because initially it had an ice rink on the floor. There was an ice rink. The whole bottom floor was an ice rink, and Mimi's restaurant and the Omni Hotel. But the amusement park was making too much noise for the residents in the hotel. And this is an indoor structure.
Right.
It's got to be 6, 7, 8 flights up, right, with a glass ceiling. So, and concrete and ice, so it's very reflective. So they ended up installing these sound cubes from the ceilings, right? So we struck it up more, and then I injured myself dancing on a tryout for the Atlanta Contemporary Dance Company. I injured myself, and I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do now, right? So I came home and I said, well, you know what? I always like to write. And I actually got into this business as to try to be a songwriter, but I became so enmeshed with audio and just floored with sonic science that I was like, yo, I'm gonna do this, right? So I come back to LA and I find those two engineers, right? One's name was Dennis Sands and one's name was Angel Ballestier. And they worked at a studio. They bought a studio called Group 4. But this was totally dedicated to film and television. It was a union house, so they couldn't hire me because I wasn't in the union. And there was a catch-22, especially back then. We talking about 1979, right?
Talk about it, talk about it.
You know, and to get in the union, you either had to be on a union lot for 30 days straight or 90 days on various lots. But to get on a union lot, you got to be in the union. So it was a huge catch-22 there, right? And that's how they kept women, people of color, so on and so forth. It's a good old boy network, nepotism, the whole nine, you know. So they told me, they said, man, we can't hire you, but, you know, we'll guide you to some things. So there were only 3 schools. There wasn't no Full Sail. There wasn't no shit like that. Audio engineering wasn't even taught in colleges like that. Right? You had to go to school to be an electronic or electrical engineer or something of that nature, communications or some of that nature. But there were 3 schools in the Southern California region. One was called Trevis, which was in Orange County behind the Orange Curtain. They didn't even let black people over there like that, you know. So we went dancing in.
You said you wasn't there,
right? And then they had Sound Masters, which was in the San Fernando Valley, and then they had a school called the University of Sound Arts, which is in Crossroads of the World, where I got the first gig. Right? One of my teachers at Crossroads at University of Sound Arts was head engineer for Graham Nash. They were building a studio downstairs. His name was Don Gooch. He was the first white engineer that Motown ever hired. Right. So you know he had plenty nigga jokes, right? Because you know he was the brunt of all kind of white boy jokes
You
at
know
Motown in Detroit. You can only imagine. He got fried, and he was Canadian, right? So you know they fried his ass, so in turn he fried mine. You know, fair exchange ain't no robbery.
That's right.
You know,
you already know.
You know, fair swap ain't no swindle.
Hello.
So I find this school, University of Sound Arts, and the reason why I chose this school is because there's a couple of ways to handle school and education. You can hire teachers who've learned from books and never made records, or actually hire engineers that are working in the industry who've never taught, but they're great engineers.
Right.
So I chose to go with that, you know, with the latter, you know. And I got all these lists of educators, all these lists of teachers, and I go back to Group 4, the Dennis Sands and Angel, and I'm like, yo, do you know any of these guys? And they was like, yo, we don't believe in schools. Schools are trash. And most studios felt this way at the time. It's like, because we feel like this, they're going to teach you the way we don't work. So we would have to unteach you and then reteach you when we rather just hire somebody straight off the street. Don't come to us with that, yo, I got a degree shit. They ain't giving a fuck about that, right? That shit was worthless. It was a paperweight, right? So I come up with this school and I list of teachers, and he said, nah, never heard of most of these motherfuckers, but if you could get this guy right here, you okay. And that guy, his name was Byron Wagner. He was one of the creators of the first voltage-controlled amplifier automation systems for consoles, right? When you see VCA or VCA-based, that was Byron Wagner's concept. And back in the day, to use automation, it took 2 tracks of the 24 tracks on the tape. So you would bounce information back and forth. You would ping pong information, VCA information back and forth between track 23 and track 24. You also had to have a track for SMPTE, which is a acronym for the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers. They have a code, which all the filmmakers and this is before video and shit. So you had to lock to this code. So your 24 tracks turned into 22 tracks because you use that code to lock other machines up as well to increase your track count, right? So yeah, it was a bunch of shit. And then those machines had to be aligned. And then the more tracks, the more tape, the more noise. So now you got Dolby, noise reduction. So those had to be aligned. You got 48 tracks of Dolby alignment to do. That was a pain in the ass because the Dolby tone is the most obnoxious thing to listen to. Like I can listen to sine waves all day, 1K, 10K, 100 hertz, no biggie. But when they get to warbling, the warble tones, I can't handle that shit. So aligning Dolby was always a pain in the ass for me, right? But, you know, if I had to align a tape machine now, it would probably take me about 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
But back then.
How long did it take back then?
For me?
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Sheesh.
15 minutes. And the parts and shit for the screws are this tiny, right? So you have these little tweakers, right? Well, it was the coolest, the easiest machines to align for me personally were Studers, because all the electronics are like in a drawer, right? Like the first 8 you pull out on the drawer and you can tweak standing up, looking down. The older machine, the other machines, you had to squat down, pull the drawers out. It was a pain.
Jeez.
It was a pain, you know.
Oh my God. Hold on, Unc. So Unc, I gotta stop you right there because you cooking right now. All the engineers going crazy in the chat right now. But let's go back to this songwriter. We're not gonna skip past you saying you wanted to be a songwriter.
I was a huge Gil Scott fan. He's like my favorite artist. Gil Scott Heron is like my favorite artist. And every time he would come there, like one summer he was really hot, right? Well, especially when the country was going through a lot of political unrest, Gil Scott was our voice, you know, through Watergate, through you know, all of that kind of shit. Skill. So one summer I saw Gil Scott like 3 times in one summer.
Yeah.
You know, I was like 17 or some shit, right? I was kind of didn't know what I was gonna do. My foot was damaged from the dancing shit. And I was like, you know, I gotta do something. I gotta be a roadie. I gotta do something, right? That has to be driven creatively. And I started doing spoken word type shit, right? And actually made a hip hop record in 19 when hip hop was brand new. And if you can find this record, and I did find it on YouTube, but somebody is scratching all on top of it, right? But
Hold on, say the record.
It's called South Africa, right? By a group called Prophets. That was me and my boy, right?
Hold on, somebody find that. South
Right.
Africa.
You can't. It's so difficult to find, right? But what it was it was our way of voicing protest the way people were treating people in South Africa with the apartheid and the whole thing. Ironically, this record, I was already in the business when I did this record.
Okay.
And hip hop blows the fuck up, right? Like, I mean, just like turns into this juggernaut, right? And Run DMC, they all them cats. Russell was very smart because he broke all those hip hop acts before there was a Def Jam and all of that shit. It was just Rush Management. It was just Russell and what's my man Ruben, right? And so Russell broke all of those acts on the R&B tours. That's how I got them off. That was brilliant thinking, right? And Run DMC, all them cats would come and hang on the crew bus and on the bus that I was on because I had the Cali weed, right? So, you know, I had the best weed, right?
You always gonna be friendly when you got the best weed.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, when you got dope and money, you can always have
that's
friends.
right.
When you hit the curb, hey, when you hit the curb, that's a solo shot, right? The same niggas you smoke with go drive by and be like, yo, that's fucked up. Mike sitting on the curb. You know what I'm saying? Mike the sunk. You know what I'm saying? but so Leor Corn is on the bus and Running them is on the bus. The only people that didn't hang on my bus was Jam Master Jay. He never came out. But Running them started hanging out with us and the crew. Everybody hangs out on the crew bus for some reason because the crew bus keep it 100. We ain't going through all that goofy shit. You know, it's just roadie niggas, you know, and it's always rock and roll. It was, you know, back in the days, that was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, bro. So times were different. You know what I'm saying? Thank God it wasn't the internet back then. Thank God. What these young cats think they doing that, boy, they ain't doing shit.
Okay? They ain't did nothing compared to
dude. But that being said, Leor Corn is dressed like Running them. Right? He got the hat and the chain.
What?
He was their road manager.
Hold on.
And
he had the Kango?
Yeah, he was dressed just like them. Right? And he came on the bus with that slick shit. Me being from LA, I'm already reading the game, right? And he wanted me to give the record to Running them for $5,000. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. Right? I was born at night, not last night. You know, we ain't doing that. And then turn around, they do the same shit with Jam Master Jay and Stevie Van Zandt from the Bruce Springsteen band about South Africa. I said, oh, the motherfuckers robbed me. That's one of my first lessons in the business. All the motherfuckers took my concept and rolled on me, right? But God don't like ugly and he ain't too fond of beauty. I'm still here. You know, thank you, Lord.
I'm right,
you know, but so I said I got to do something. So I go get in this school, and I became a teacher's pet to this man Don Gooch, and it's my first introduction to actually recording because it was hands on. It wasn't no YouTube. It was hands the fuck on, right? And
Hold
he said, I
on.
want you to mic this piano for me. And he taught, and this is a $250,000 Bossendorfer piano, right? This is like piano's worth $250,000, right? And he tosses me these two microphones, and I catch them, right? And he said, woo, I'm glad you caught those. And I said, why? He said, man, those mics are worth like $850 a piece. We talking about U87s that are worth like $3,000 now, right? Nigga, I like to fell out. That's when I almost dropped the motherfuckers, when I found out how much they cost. Right? So I mic'd the piano up. He said, how did you instinctively know how to mic that piano? Because this is your first class. I said, because I go to concerts all the time. I watch what the techs do. He said, you don't watch the talent? I said, yeah, I watch the talent. I said, but I'm fascinated by how the techs move, right? And once again, you know, then I went to work for Graham, and I assisted a lot of great engineers like Joe Ciccarelli and Gray Ingram, and, you know, just cats that would do live sound reinforcement and recording studios as well, because back then there wasn't such a divide. You know, there's a real divide and a real compartment kind of shit going on in the business that didn't exist back then. Like back in the day, like I had a cat call me or DM me, and I gave him a list of books to read, to study. If you want to talk to me and really learn, you need to have this information, because you won't be able to articulate what you need from me, right? He said, man, people told me to go buy templates. I went and bought a vocal booth. I bought a 414. I'm watching these YouTube videos, and my shit still sounds like ass. And I said, because you're approaching it wrong. You're trying to throw money at a problem. That never solves a problem. You're just fucking off money, right? I said, the reason why you have these problems is because you're not educated. So go get these 2 books, right? And I'm going to give you a list of videos to watch. 3 videos. Had nothing to do with tech at all. It was Miles Davis on stage. It was Ahmad Jamal on stage. And it was Robert Glasper on stage, you know. And, Robert Glasper, one mic, one take was actually done in the studio. I wanted him to see that one because I wanted him to see actual mics on drums and shit like that, right? And while I'm giving him these videos, he's watching them, right? And he's hitting me. He's like, yo, dude, he said, you the first person out of everybody that I've asked that told me to go get a goddamn book.
Yeah.
Right? He said, and just watching these videos, I said, you don't have to like the music. I said, but watch how the musicians communicate. Watch the textures. Watch when they play. Watch when they play alone, and watch how they play when they play with others. Right? That dude hit me back yesterday or something. He said, man, just having this conversation with you changed my whole concept. I said, what a lot of people talk about, well, this is if you want to have a great vocal, this is what you do. If you want to have none of that shit applies. Right? It's just marketing. Don't fall victim to marketing schemes. Right? The most important thing is mic choice and mic placement. Right? And I swear to God, this young cat, Wavy Wayne, that's my dude. He be in my head because shit that I be thinking about, he'll fuck around and do a video on the next day. I be like, I'm gonna kill this young kid. Right? But he's my dude. I love him and his wife. They're amazing. But people don't know how to approach a microphone. You see cats like this.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're wondering why they have these plosives. And for those out there that don't know what plosives are a burst of air that come out of your mouth when you use certain, you know, certain like B's and P's. And that's why you have to have a filter. But if you approach the mic properly, you don't need none of that shit. If you record the record properly, mixing the record is a fucking breeze. The record will tell you what to do, right? But the reason why it takes so long for cats to mix records is because they're fixing the motherfuckers. It's not a creative experience.
Well, let me ask you this. What about when the rappers hold the microphone on stage and they cuffing it? Can you tell us from your professional experience how are rappers supposed to hold the microphone? Pause.
Okay. First of all, when you do that, And you usually see it on microphones that have a wind cover on them anyway.
Right.
Right, like an SM58 or something. That's the cheapest way to reinforce a vocal on stage, the SM58. It's the most reliable, you know. They even got them on wireless capsules. With that being said, it's already got a massive windscreen on it. And then you put your hand over that windscreen, and it really sounds like this, right? So what that forces the engineer to do is to suck out all of that low frequency from like 7 hertz on down. But now the vocals sound like this because you're trying to get it to cut through. And what you've done is you've destroyed the natural sound of the human voice because you're trying to get it to cut through because this nigga doing this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? There's a company called DPA, right? D as in dog, P as in Paul, A as in apple. And they have a mic chart, right? A mic chart on different frequency responses on how you hold the microphone. Anybody that's doing live performances with microphones and stuff should get this chart. And it shows you how the frequency response is affected by the way the mic is held. And people don't understand when you're on a stage, working in a recording studio and working on a stage are two totally separate entities.
Right.
Right. And when you're working on a stage, you are dealing with speakers on a stage. If everybody ain't on in-ears and everybody ain't got the budgets to be on in-ears, right? Because that shit takes breath. Shout out to my man Tony Pretty Tone from Ultimate In-Ear Support. That's my man. So when you're dealing with monitors on a stage, that monitor is not supposed to sound like your home stereo. That monitor is supposed to give you clues from your other band members. Why do you need a monitor as a guitar player? Why do you need to hear yourself in a monitor and you're playing out of a 400 fucking watt amp? That's ego. That's ego. That means you're not listening to anyone else on the stage.
That's a fact.
You understand what I'm saying? Now, you know, and if you're gonna have a collaborative effort, people have to hear themselves, and they have to hear each other. More importantly, because the drummer got to listen to the bass player got to listen to the drummer because he got to know. You know, when you watch cats, when you go and watch like those old James Brown videos and shit like that, you see the communication that these motherfuckers have with the band. They can just look, right, and do a certain thing, nod a head or throw a hand up or whatever the case may be, and without anybody saying anything, the band knows where to go.
Yep.
You know, I still do live sound reinforcement because there's nothing like the adrenaline rush of having 50 or 60 or 70 channels of live audio information happening simultaneously. You can't get no higher than that, bro. You know, that's
you
like,
don't feel
surfing
nervous?
a 40-foot wave.
You don't feel nervous with all those channels? All those channels don't make you nervous?
No, man. I was nervous at first. I was nervous as a horn at church house. Nigga, shit. I was nervous as a snitch at a gangster party. What is he talking about? Hell yeah, I was nervous. But that's part of the fun. That's part of the high.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Oh, well, hold on. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back because we cooking already. So let's talk about your first gig. Okay, so you said you're doing your gigs and all that. Let's talk about your first major record placement. Can you tell us about that and how that happened?
Oh, okay. So, my first major record. Now, I did a record. My very first album I did was a kids record for McDonald's. Right?
Now, let's talk about that real quick. How did that
It was on Casablanca. It was on Neil Bogart's label, the same label with George, right? And this was a live table reading. It wasn't no punching. So it was a 2-album set, right? So we had to do all kinds of things to make sound effects and shit. Like I took a 441, wrapped it up in a plastic bag really tight, stuck it in a bucket of water, and then had a motherfucker stick his head in the water to talk.
What? Hold on. Say that again.
Yeah, we were doing weird shit like that.
Talk about that again. Hold on. Say what now?
I took a Sennheiser Sennheiser 441. The engineer who I was assisting, his name was Steve Smith, and he was an assistant engineer. This was his first time as a first engineer, right? And I'm assisting him. So really, in all reality, we both green as motherfucking cucumbers. You know what I'm saying? We green as food tables and twice as square. But that being said, he had more experience with me because he worked on the Donna Summer records, right? So we come to my joint, and he's the motherfucking man, right? So it was like, we need a sound like somebody's talking to a whale, right? So we took a 441, a Sennheiser, wrapped it up in a plastic bag, right? And put got a tub of water and put the mic in the motherfucking tub of water. And then the producer put his head in the tub of water and was talking into the microphone.
And it picked up all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is wild.
Bananas. That was bananas.
And it came out good. Came out
great. Now let me tell you something. Let me tell you how much money McDonald's got. All right. Keep in mind, this is a 2-album set, 4 sides, right? And we did this whole table reading, people reading from scripts, right? Live. And his cat that I'm close to this day, his name is Corey Burton. He's one of the most famous voiceover artists out there. He does all the voices for all the cartoons and all this shit, right? And Corey was the voice of Ronald McDonald. And he sounded just like him, right? And we got the record done and mixed. Turned the record into McDonald's Corporation. The McDonald's Corporation said, yeah, it's fantastic, but that ain't Ronald. They sent the cat who did the commercials to LA, 5-star fucking treatment. You know what I'm saying? Like he was a rock star. All right. And we did the whole album over.
What?
Mixed and all. Re-recorded and mixed.
So hold on. They knew he didn't sound like Ronald, so they said no.
But he only didn't sound like Ronald to them. Everybody else was like, yo, do you hear how close this motherfucker is?
Wow.
But Corey's going on to be very successful, and I'm very happy for him. But that was my first record. My second record was being an assistant on a very big record by a group called Crosby, Stills and Nash. My first experience with records were black records. They were white people records. They were like Crosby, Stills and Nash and Poco and shit like that. So I'm in a whole nowhere. Here's this young black kid that got in the music business to get away from streets, gangsters, and drugs and shit, that jumped out the frying pan, dead into the fire, right? You know, now I done went from motherfuckers dealing dime bags of cocaine on the corner to seeing white people snorting out of punch bowls, right? You know, and I'm like, yo, this shit is wild. And did a record called Daylight Again, right? And this is where I met an artist named Brenda Lee Ager. I was a female artist. She just had a birthday right at the end of the year. And Brenda Lee did songs with Jerry Butler and the Vocal Coach, all these bad motherfuckers. And she knew that I was a babe in dangerous territory, because she pulled me to the side. Being a black woman, her motherly qualities came out, right? Because I was like 17 or 18 or some shit, right? I had no fucking clue what I was getting into, right? And she pulled me to the side. She said, I want you to be careful, you know, around here. And I don't want you to fall into the trappings, you know, that you see around you. This is not real, right? This is not your world, you know. This is, you know, she didn't say it verbatim, but that's what came through to me, right? And I worked really hard on this fucking record, and there was so many guests on this record. And then, but even before that, we did a record in protest of 3 Mile Island, the nuclear facility in Pennsylvania. They had a nuclear facility called 3 Mile Island. And all the rock and rollers and all the musicians did a protest at Madison Square Garden. 3 days, 3-day concert. They recorded all. And Graham Nash donated all the studio time to mix that album.
Oh, wow.
right? And it was everybody on the album from Peter Tosh to Bonnie Raitt to Ray Parker Jr. to Crosby, Stills and Nash to Bruce Springsteen to Linda Ronstadt, just up. And I had to process all those tapes. So these two semis pull up, these 252-foot trailers come up, and these motherfuckers is full of 2-inch tapes. And then the quarter-inch tapes of monitor mixes and cassettes, and it was just a massive amount of work, right? So I got exposed to a lot of different engineers very quickly, right? A lot of different producers very quickly. As sadly, on the next record, on the Daylight Again record, they gave my credit to the white girl secretary who never ever came into the studio one time.
What?
She got credited on the record because I quit. Because remember I told you on that 3 Mile Island protest record, there was a girls lesbian group. And we talking about 1979,
right.
bro. They're out. They not giving a fuck. This is what we do. This is how we get down. But they were amazing, and they were called Sweet Honey in the Rock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't have an engineer, right? Like most black groups did.
Right.
To black groups back then, having an engineer on the road or personal engineer was a luxury. To white bands, it was a necessity.
Right.
Two different things. White bands will be willing to take a cut and pay to take your engineer out on the road. When niggas are like, no, we ain't got it like that. You know what I'm saying?
I need all my bread.
We ain't got it like that.
Yeah.
So, I walked in. Well, I didn't walk in. I was in the room, and the topic came up about who was going to mix Sweet Honey in the Rock. And that's when I saw racism for real, right? And it was David Crosby, who was a piece of shit, and I'll say it publicly, right? He forgot I was in the room, and the console, where the console is elevated, and you step down behind the console. There was seating, so you could sit like looking at the monitors, but in front of the console, right? And he forgot I was in the room, and he went on a really racist rant about, well, who's gonna mix the dyke bald head nigger bitches.
Whoa.
And nigga, I was fucked up because I idolized these motherfuckers.
Right. Now, look, now you got me about to go whoop some man with that.
And I was like, I was appalled, right? And Graham Nash, and I really appreciate Graham, because Graham, he saw how fucked up I was, right? And he pulled me to the side. He said, man, David is a fucking asshole. He said, don't pay attention to him. But my mind had already been set, like, I don't need to be around this kind of shit, because I'll fuck around and end up in the same very prisons that I dodged coming to this shit. So that's how they bit me. They didn't credit me on the album.
Wow.
Right. And then when I brought it to Graham's attention, I said, what the fuck is this? He said, oh, we'll get you on the next run. And they never did. They never rectified that, which, I'm not tripping, but, that kind of hurt me, because that was like my first big thing,
Yeah.
And they fucked over me. And, I got used to it,
Yeah.
From there, I said, you know what? I got to do something. And I ran into a cat. I met a cat who happened to come by the studio, who ended up being a thieving motherfucker, right? He was a crooked motherfucker himself, right? He said, dude, Solar Records needs crew. And Solar had the Whispers and Shalimar and Lakeside and Dynasty and Midnight Star and Climax. We was cracking, right?
Yeah.
So I'm the last person to get hired on the very first Solar tour. I get hired as a truck driver, right? Don't nobody know me. I don't know nobody. I don't even know who Dick Griffey is. And it's his tour and his act and his label.
Yeah.
I don't even know the man, right? All I know is I need a fucking job, and I need one immediately, if not sooner, right? So they hired me as a truck driver. And I'm riding with a dude named Leon Blue. And Leon Blue is a driver to this day, but he drive buses. He driving for Cube now. He's Cube's personal driver now. But he drove for everybody from Cash Money to Lil Wayne, all them cats. You know, he's the rock star driver.
Yeah.
Right. And me and Blue, the first thing Blue say when we jump in the truck, before we get in the truck, the show starts in San Bernardino at this theater in San Bernardino. And I meet the road manager from Lakeside, which his name was Bobby Owens. A's up to Bobby. And I told Bobby, I said, man, I don't really drive no motherfucking trucks. I'm an audio engineer. He was like, oh, yeah, you be mixing and shit? And I was like, yeah, that's what I do. He said, is that right? I said, man, I tell you what. I said, if you convince your band to let me mix your shows for a week, you don't have to pay me. If you don't like it, I'll take my funky ass back in this truck and sling this gear. Right? Keep in mind, Roth, Doctor, I ain't never drove a truck before in my funky ass life, ever. Right? Yeah. So my nigga Blue, he said, yo, I'm driving at night. So it was nighttime, so he had to drive first, right? So we ride and we get close. You know, when you're that close to a person going across country, you start talking about shit. Yeah. And we get around Texas, now all of a sudden we best friends, right? And we get around Arizona, we get to talking. I said, man, I got something to tell you, bro. And he said, what is it? I said, I ain't never drove no motherfucking truck before, right? And he drive, and he said, shit, me neither, right? So we rolling, right? We rolling, and get the truck stuck in the mud, and he freak out. He's like, oh, the tourists behind us, we finna get fired before we even do the first fucking show. And I just crack up laughing, and that's how I learned how to handle pressure. You know, that's why live sound makes you good in the studio, because you can go fast, you can move. But long story short, I'm driving the truck, I'm humping the gear, and I'm mixing the show for Lakeside. First show, I get into it with Dick Griffin. Keep in mind, I told you, I don't know who this man is.
Whoa, hold on. Time out. The legend of Dick Griffin?
Yes, we get into it. We lock up, right? We on the rise. I'm mixing, right? I'm mixing for Lakeside. For free, mind you. Right?
You're not even hired yet.
I ain't even hired yet, right? And he's giving me suggestions. But I'm irritable. I've been driving. I'm slinging the gear. I'm mixing, packing the gear, driving on to the next gig. I'm not the most likable motherfucker out there, right? Especially with somebody over my shoulder trying to tell me how to do my gig, and I got to answer to 11 motherfuckers in that band. There's 11 niggas in that motherfucking band, right? So me and him kind of lock up. I said, look, check this out, bro. When I go in that dressing room, I'm the one that gets berated. I'm the one that gets fucking talked to like a crazy motherfucker. So if this shit is going to be fucked up, I'm going to be the one fuck it up, and you can get the fuck off my rise. Didn't know who the man was. Did not know who the man was, right? When I get off the riser, William Shelby, rest in peace, William Shelby says, nigga, you go home tomorrow. And I was like,
hold on. What? He just tell you going home tomorrow?
He said, you going home tomorrow. I said, why you say that? I said, was the show that bad? He said, no, that was Dick Griffey. I said, who the fuck is Dick Griffey? And he pointed at the banner at the back of the stage, right? He said, that's Dick Griffey. That's who you just cursed out. I said, oh, fuck. So Dick immediately goes to the dressing room and tells Lakeside to fire me. But the thing about Lakeside was anything that Dick would tell them to do, they would do the exact opposite, right? Right? So they figured he must be doing a good job. He got Dick pissed off, right? So, but the next time I saw him, I immediately went into kiss ass mode, started apologizing, and he was like, yo, you do good work. He said, but you got to calm your attitude down. I said, man, I just don't like people telling me what to do when my ass is on the line, because you ain't going to get fried. I'm going to get fried. But we end up being, Dick was the one who took me to Africa. Dick showed me Africa. We got really close. It was only 4 crew members on that tour. It was the 2 members with Lakeside. It was me and 2 other cats, Bobby Owens and Gary Wilkinson. Bobby did all the backline, all the amps and shit, right? Because I did audio, I would do keyboards, right? I would set up the keys and handle the audio, and Gary would handle all the percussion. And Lil Fred had a huge drum kit, and Big Fred had a huge percussion kit. So it was just the 3 of us, and then Leon Blue, who was in the truck with me, he's a keyboard player. So he went to Norman Beavers from Lakeside, and he was like, yo, I'll set your keyboards up for free if you just let me play them during the sound check and shit. So that was a relief for me. I was like, oh, cool.
Perfect.
Right? So it was Leon Blue from Shalimar and me, Bobby, and Gary. That's what we called the original posse. And niggas still talk about us on the road to this day. We were trendsetters. We were young, we were black, and we didn't give a fuck, right? Because we didn't care. We didn't have enough IQ to give a fuck. Right. We were just ignorant, you know? But we were very good at what we did, you know? So mother was like, yo, that motherfucking posse ain't no joke. And the reason why they called us the posse was because Lakeside, every time they cut a record, Lakeside would have a theme. When I got with Lakeside, they was doing All the Way Live. On that cover of All the Way Live, they looked like cowboys, black cowboys. So we was the posse. We had like cowboy hats on, the big feathers and shit, right? And we were notorious. We were so notorious that we got wrote up when we did the show in New Orleans. The columnist who did the article on the show gave us a review too. He was like, their crew was phenomenal. We were all over the place, you know. But so when I'm out there on the road, I chop it up with Dana Myers. Now, if you Google Dana, Dana was one of the main writers for the Whisperers and Shalimar and all that shit, right? Dana says, yo, you ever work in the studio before? I said, yeah, that's what I do, right? He said, when we get home, I'm going to call you. I was like, yeah, right, whatever, right? But I got home and the motherfucker called. And the first record was The Spinners, right? Actually, it was 3 records. It was one for The Spinners, Save the Overtime for Me and You're Number One for Gladys Knight, and a record with Edmund Silvers, right? And it went from there, right? I started working on Shalimar's records and the Whisperers records and Dynasty's records. And then I was doing my own thing, you know, as an independent contractor. I was working on at other studios, and they was calling me in to work with rock bands and shit. Because I would do the bands that nobody else wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody wanted to work with Slayer. When Slayer was signed to Metal Blade, nobody wanted to work with them motherfuckers. They hated them. All the studio staff, they hated all of the Metal Blade acts. And the Metal Blade acts knew it. So they would do shit to deface the studio, put boogers on the wall, all kind of shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And I was a black kid so willing to be in the business so bad, it could have been a bunch of motherfuckers hammering rusty nails. I would have recorded that shit. I ain't give a fuck, right? I was hungry. I was hungry as a pack of Timberwolves. So Tom Murphy, which owns a place now, is called Track Record in the Valley. That original Track Record was on Melrose in Hollywood. The Track Record, what they call Track Record now, there's a second reincarnation of the original Track Record. So I did all of the midnight hours at Track Record. And that was all the Metal Blade shit. Slayer, The Mentors, Crisis of Conformity. Places that black people don't normally be, right? I'm with these motherfuckers. These niggas are shooting heroin, leaving the studio, going turn tricks, you know, coming back, you know, just wild shit, right? Just really wild shit. And Slayer, when I was working with Slayer, they had a producer engineer. One man, his name was Bill Matoya. Big ass afro, look Creole, right? Green ass eyes like Norman Whitfield, right? And Bill was like, I don't need no assistant, but if you want to hang out, you know, you can hang out, because he wasn't used to having one, right?
Yeah.
So when I came in, I started playing an active role and doing things and helping them and stuff. And Slayer came to me and was like, dude, you're the only person that work here that really care about us, right? So they got really more open to me, you know? And I started to feel comfortable with them because these are Valley white kids, right? And I'm a nigga from South Central. I'm straight from Griffin, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we chop it up, and I asked him, I said, Perry, can I ask you a personal question, man? And he said, yeah. I said, what is you motherfuckers' fascination with the devil? Because all the music was about, you know, like Satan worship. They were accused of being devil worshipers and all that kind of shit, right? And Perry looked at me ever so innocently, and he said, man, we don't believe in none of that shit. We just do this shit to piss our parents off. I was fucking floored. I was like, these niggas got the whole world on hostage.
Right.
And it's just a fucking joke.
Because they want to piss their parents off. Wow.
So funny. And this is how I met Ray Parker Jr. I felt so good as a black man because remember when I told you I was doing that 3 Mile Island record, right? Ray Parker Jr. was on that show. And when that motherfucker pulled up, he pulled up in the stretched out ass Rolls Royce. He had the dopest car in the parking lot, right? I was like, who is this nigga? But it gave me such a sense of pride, right? Because Ray Parker Jr. had been playing on records since he was 15, 16 years old. He was a double, triple scale musician in Detroit, right? So when he came to LA, he was already an established dude.
Yeah.
So to meet him and to see him, and he was a motivation for me, right? And then I met a man named Reggie Dozier. And if you know songwriters, you know Lamont Dozier, Holland Dozier Holland.
Yeah.
Reggie is Lamont Dozier's little brother. And Reggie was one of the first engineers, black engineers at Motown. And him and Don Gooch, the white guy who I was working with at Rudy, was partners.
Wow.
So me and Reggie got cool, you know. And once I got cool with Reggie, and then I started doing the Silver Spoon shit, and then that's when all the other shit started happening, like George Clinton and O'Brien and all shit like this, because, you know, I was just at the cracking ass studios. I just, you know, God was very good to me, you know. That was a huge, every artist that I worked with, and I miss these days because everybody's doing it themselves now, and they're not working together like they used to. Right. But you learn so much more, you know, when you work with other people. You learn so much more, you know. So but some of these people now are so narcissistic that they don't know how to work with people. Some motherfuckers is meant to do it themselves. Right. You shouldn't even be allowed in public, right? You're just not a people person, my dude. You just, you know, stay at home, scratch your ass, and make your records and leave people alone. You know, this not for you. You know, this not for you, bro. Right. You know, but you know, working with George was see. Here's the thing. Every situation is so different because working with Leon Silvers and his crew, Silver Spoon, was very methodical. They had a very, very stiff way. These are the way we make our records, and this is a formula. And if you don't fuck with this formula, you ain't working. So it was a very strict formula that you had to adhere to.
Well, let me pause you right there. What is one thing that you saw that all of these amazing artists, was there one thing that you noticed about them that they all were doing, or did they all kind of have a different type of process?
Back then, you know, with R&B and funk, it was about pocket. You know, if you didn't have a pocket, and that's what made Leon's records so amazing, because most of those records were very simple. Leon's records were very complex, and the motherfucker played a Rickenbacker bass, like Paul McCartney, right? So he was an oddity. You know, everybody else was playing Fenders and shit. This nigga playing a Rickenbacker. But then you hear that shit.
Yeah.
You couldn't get that shit to cut through if you was playing a Fender.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So, you know, and then I went from that very disciplined environment to doing George Clinton, which anything fucking goes.
Mm.
You know, you might fuck around and be on a roof recording some shit fucking with George. You know what I'm saying? Because George had way out concepts and ideas. So, you know, I did a lot of blues records.
Mm.
And blues, rock and roll ain't nothing but electrified blues. That's what Leon Hayward used to tell me. You know, he said, man, they ain't doing that. The white boys ain't doing no new shit. They ain't, you know what I'm saying? You know. And then I started dealing with, you know, assisting the white rock and roll engineers and shit, right? They was getting major bread. Major bread, because they were participating in profit. They were getting points. Point and a half, 2 points, 3 points, retail points, not wholesale points, right? Why you think Bruce Houdin, the nigga that engineered for Michael Jackson, he was rich as fuck. He got a point and a half. He got a retail point and a half on every record Quincy Jones has ever done. And you wonder why black engineers weren't treated that way was because by the time, first of all, black bands didn't have the same budgets that white bands had.
Right.
Their white counterpart had much bigger budgets. You know what I'm saying? So band, yes, absolutely. And they were getting points on records. I'm busting my ass damn near producing some of these records, and I'm going home broke as a motherfucker at the end of the day because I'm work for hire. Right? So I was like, so what do I have to do to break this paradigm? Right? And we can hold record companies accountable to a certain degree.
Okay.
You know, because on the other side of the coin, black songwriters and producers who were in control of budgets marginalized our contribution as engineers. Like, oh, nigga, you engineer, niggas come a dime a dozen. Well, right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, you can hear old niggas saying that shit like, oh, check this out, those snotty kids, those snotty nose, nigga, you ain't, what, nigga, what, publishing, what?
Right.
Nigga, you lucky, you know, you in this motherfucker. You know, black people had that attitude, nigga, you lucky you in here. You know what I'm saying?
We get anybody.
Yeah, you know. I remember I knew some cats that played with Aretha Franklin. And they went to her talking about a raise. And she was like, you motherfuckers are lucky to be getting paid at all. You on stage with royalty. And that hurt us to a degree. But that's that crabs in the barrel kind of thing. You know, which is why I always stress in the room, I always stress when you're collaborating with someone and that chemistry is working, you want to keep that chemistry intact. Because, I mean, if you look at somebody like Elton John, unless it was on somebody else's project, Elton John worked with the same engineer his whole career, and that was Gus Dungey.
That's right.
Right. So, you know, it's kind of hard to look at it as a whole in its entirety because you had the black paradigm and then you had the rock and roll paradigm, right? Black people, their average record budget, 150,000, 200,000, and promotion is coming out of that, recording costs coming out of that. You know, white cats, they starting out at 350,000. So it's real easy to judge and say, oh, that was fucked up what they did, but they didn't have the latitude to do it.
Right.
You know, your 100% immediately as soon as you sign turns into 50. And then the cost out of that 50, you gotta pay other motherfuckers.
Everybody
so
out
you
of yours.
See why they would say, man, fuck that. I'm not giving up a quarter of a point. Fuck what you talking about. Nigga, you don't like it, go get on some other nigga record. Go fuck their record up. You ain't that good no way, nigga. You know what I'm saying? You would black people be rich. You
They'll
know what
cook
I'm
you.
saying?
They'll cook you. They will cook
They'll
you.
fry your ass.
Hell yeah.
So it's been a rock and roll ride. The reason why it was important for me to do live sound reinforcement was it kept me working when I wasn't in the studio,
Talk
when I
about that.
wasn't getting records.
Talk about that.
You know
So
what
let
I'm
me ask you this:
saying?
should engineers be able to do both? They should be able to
They should be
record.
able to do it
Okay,
all.
do it all. Right.
You should be able to go on a film set and work. You should be
Talk
able
about.
to process records. Don't tell me how great you record vocals and you ain't never recorded a vocal with a band.
Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? Nigga, don't call yourself a recording engineer when all you've ever recorded was a vocal in your bedroom. If you don't get your snotty nose young ass out of here, nigga. You know what I'm
Free.
saying?
Free.
You
I need
know,
y'all to put hundreds in the chat. Hundreds in the chat right now.
huh?
I said I told them to put hundreds in the chat because you cooking right now.
Records is, the process has been so compartmentalized because of the internet and shit. Like, all of a sudden, you don't need to know what it takes to record a record because you can jump right into the mixing stage. I just want to mix. No, nigga, don't work like that, right? Back in the day, you never got an opportunity to mix the record until you learned how to record one first.
Talk about
So
it.
we kind of like in the age of we're putting the cart in front of the fucking horse. And you niggas is wondering why you can't mix. Nigga, because you can't record. That's why. You know what I'm saying? You can't emulate the sound of a drummer if you never fucking seen one. Anybody can do this. Do dot, do dot. Nigga, my grandson can do that. But everybody's records now, they do this. They don't do this because we live in a world of copy and paste. And,
talk about it.
And Paul Arnold, that's my guy. I remember when he first came to LA. That was hilarious. When we did records back in the day, we didn't have the option of copying and pasting. Now we can fly shit in, but then you would have generational loss. You're dealing with generational loss, right? Because you're dealing with tape. You're dealing with a physical entity, right? So you would do the first hook, and the producer would do the second hook, and nobody's gonna do the exact same thing perfectly, so it would be something different, right? In the second hook, and then you go to the third hook, and they do that. Now they got a vibe, and the third hook to turn into something. And the producer would be like, you know what? We need to do that on the first hook, right? And then it would just get progressively better, and that's why the records did this and not this.
Well, y'all better pin that talk right there.
The reason why you learn those shortcut keys and you beat them, the reason to be fast is so you can have the time to be creative. The only reason just to be fast is to meet a deadline. But if you at home doing it for your mother for doing it yourself, who clock you on, nigga? What you rushing for? Nigga, I get 15 songs a day. Yeah, nigga, I can tell.
we need more hundreds in the chat. It's preaching hour.
Nigga, I can tell you did. I know for a fact you did all these in one day, nigga, for sure. You know,
you cooking. You cooking right now.
But I watched things progress. Right, I watched things change. I remember I walked into a recording studio called Devonshire. Devonshire had 4 spaces, and Leon was in one of the control. We had the whole building locked out there. So that's what Leon would do. Leon would go, we would have 9 studios around town just locked out. Right. Not no poop butt rooms either. Real rooms, real facilities. And I walked in the room and I heard Leon cussing the motherfucker out. You stupid motherfucker, you dumb motherfucker. And I'm like, oh shit, who the fuck is he talking to? Right? And I walked into the motherfucker and he was talking to himself. because they had just invented MIDI.
Oh.
And now he don't need a band no more. He like, fuck you niggas. You niggas don't play that good no way. Right? This nigga's the most stable drummer I've ever met.
Hold on. So he's cussing his own self out like he would cuss out.
Yes, man. That's why I
drummer.
never got mad when he cussed me out. Because I know he held himself to the same standard. Right? Man, I seen Leon fire a motherfucking drummer and play each drum by itself on its own track. He do the bass drum, tell me where to punch it, right? He do the snare drum, tell me where to punch it. The hi-hat and cymbals, that's how anal he was.
Hold on. How long did that take? How long did that take for him to put that record? Look, I can tell you stressed out now thinking about it.
Probably 4 or 5 hours. Depending on the tune and depending on the complexity. Because Leon was a master punching. Leon would make you play a part over to put like if you were playing guitar, Leon would make you play a part over if the fret noise wasn't in pocket. He was that anal. And let me tell you, the motherfucker that taught me really how to use a tape recorder wasn't any engineer. It was Leon fucking Silver. That motherfucker would play. I remember we did a song called The Tilt by Seventh Wonder out of Atlanta. We had a studio in Atlanta called Bill Laurie's Southern Tracks. I don't know if it's still there. This was years ago. It's the 80s. And the whole Dynasty band is out there. We got a nigga on piano live, right? We got Cat on piano. We got Ricky Smith on keyboard synths. 2 guitar players, Pepper Reed and Richard. Wardell Potts playing drums. I mean, just a full band. And Leon is in the control room with me playing bass and producing. And they make a mistake on that track. And Leon was like, yo, we're going to punch in right there. And I'm like, nigga, what? Because this is a whole band. We talking about pianos and cymbal overhangs. And, piano decays and shit like that. And then I was like, get the fuck out the way. Move. And he playing, right? And he punches. And then punches out and leaves the room. The fucking punches are flawless, right? When they leave the room, I start soloing instruments to see if I can hear this fucking punch. I could never hear it.
Damn.
That shit was seamless. And all I get now is sessions with niggas that got all these digital capabilities and this punch noise all over that motherfucker. Like, you lazy bastards, right?
They don't even understand what they had to do to punch back then, huh?
It was crazy because I remember George Clinton did the wildest shit ever. Remember I told you it was MIDI. And Amp Fiddler, rest in peace, Amp. We just lost him earlier this year. That was my heart, man. Amp was just the nicest, most amazing, talented motherfucker. But Amp had this whole MIDI setup with all these different modules, right? And I filled up the 24 track with sounds, drum sounds, keyboard sounds, string pads, all of that. The track was full, wasn't no room for no fucking vocals, right? And George kept telling me, don't worry about it, right? Because George is the kind of motherfucker that I'll be like, George, we got the tracks. And he'd be like, okay, what's the bass drum doing right there? Or it's not playing right there, put it right there. He's one of them niggas, you know what I'm saying? Right? So, we get to that stage, and Leon says, well, fuck it. Since we all in, sync up another machine. So I sync up another 24 track, right? Now he has Amp turn the power off to all the MIDI modules. And then he turned it back on. He said, now turn it back on and record that. So the modules on the second pass, like you never knew what sounds were gonna come up on those modules. So this motherfucker might be an amble, but it's playing the pattern of a bass drum.
Mm.
So now we got a whole track full of sounds that are triggered from guitar players, bass players that aren't playing traditionally guitar sounds and bass sounds. So that shit was wild as fuck, right? And George would take, like, when doing vocals with George was really, you had to really, you had to have your seatbelt on because he moved really fast, right? And the worst thing in the world, if a motherfucker looking at you and be like, "Did you get that?" And the worst thing in the world you should say is no.
Like, no.
That's the wrong thing to say. That is not
That's not the answer.
working. Yeah, you will be at the unemployment house quick fucking with that, right? And George would, like, you would have said, like, I got 15 tracks of vocals. There's no one dedicated source of information to any one dedicated track. In other words, on this one track, we doing working on the first verse. The first line of the first verse might be one person. The second line of the first verse might be 5 people.
Oh, wow.
The third line of the first verse might be 4. So you would have 15 tracks like that. Right? So mixing that shit, you had to really be in tune to what George was hearing in his head. It was the learning experience.
Wow.
It was
the learning experience. Just sitting here listening, I learned something because I'm sitting here trying to think in my head. You got a limited amount of tracks and you got 58 sounds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's
like, it was intense. I loved working with George though, because with George, see, with Leon, you knew exactly what you was gonna do when you walked in that motherfucker, because if you didn't, you wasn't working. But with George, you had no idea what you were going to encounter until you got there. Like there was a studio that we used to work at called Hollywood Sound. Then it ended up being a Lumba, and then now I think it's a Forever 21 or some shit. But when it was Hollywood Sound, this building had been a recording studio since the 40s. And when they started tearing out the walls and shit, they were finding like fucking faders from consoles that were like out of the early 1900s with knobs this motherfucking big, and faders like this, would take 2 hands to pull down and shit, right? And when they rebuilt the walls, it was crickets in the motherfucker. And you would never know it until singers would be in the room and hit a certain note. And the crickets would just start kicking in.
Man,
right?
Stop playing.
And there was nothing that you could do about it because they were in the fucking wall. Right? So when this African princess bought Hollywood Sound, she turned it into a Lumba. Reggie Dozier designed the room, right? I just knew they had dealt with that problem. Okay, we ain't finally the fucking them crickets is on them Climax records.
What?
Yes.
Hold on. The crickets got credit on the record?
They don't have credit, but they own that motherfucker though.
But they got some credit because they was up there.
They own that motherfucker, right? But so we get into a Lumba. Now Hollywood Sound is this fancy motherfucking place called a Lumba that had everything, totally state of the art, right? And I'm in there with George, and he got like 15 people in the room singing different parts of shit, right? And they hit this fucking note, and them motherfucking crickets get to tripping, right? I'm in panic mode, like, oh fuck, how is George gonna look at me? How am I gonna deal with this problem, right? And I looked at George. George was like, what the fuck are you stressing about? What's the problem? And I was like, you don't hear them crickets? He said, yeah, nigga, they in the band. Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, don't worry about that bullshit. Nigga, they with us. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I'm about to add a little cricket sound in my beats now. I don't give a damn. If that's what it takes to make some hit records, I'm about to add some crickets in my beats. I'm just letting you know that now.
I just swear to God, dude, I had some moments that were so eye-opening musically that reflected in other areas of my life. Like there were sessions that I did at that time that were therapeutic for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I did Vanessa Williams' first record, I was having marital problems, right? So being a part of that record was part of my therapy, right? That'd be a good title too. Crickets in the Wall would be a great name for a band. You know, I'm gonna tell you the coldest name for a band would be the N-word. That'd be a dope name for a band to have all people from. Dude, when I was in Atlanta, when I was trying to get into business, they had a band called Thermos Greenwood and the Colored Peoples.
What?
And I went to see the band, and it was actual colored peoples. One nigga was orange, one nigga was green, one nigga was yellow. Right? I was like, yo, that's dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
And I think that's where the Blue Group kind of got their concept. Right? But you know, some of those records, like you know how people say, I knew that was gonna be a hit?
Yeah.
You can say that shit, and as great as the record might be,
yeah,
it's more to having a hit record than it being a good record. There's a young lady, her name is Jasmine James. I tried to get you to come in the room with us one night when I was doing a tech room. And Jasmine came up with this concept, and it was called the perfect trifecta in the music business is having a great audio engineer / producer, a great business team, and a great marketing team. That's the perfect trifecta, right? This was Jasmine's concept. We were actually supposed to do this at this year's NAMM show, right? But we didn't submit it in time. But oh, my son is in here. Grim Goldie, that's Rothstein. Rothstein, meet Grim Goldie.
Yes, sir. Shut up, Grim.
He in your town, man. He next to you.
Oh no, me and Grim gonna connect. We already talked.
Yeah.
But hey, we got about 10 more minutes. Got about
that's
10
all.
more minutes.
Oh man,
that's
we
it.
just
We gotta do part
fun.
2. We got to do part 2. What?
Okay.
You know?
I'll tell you another record that was a learning experience. Was the Banging on Wax records.
Oh yeah. Now you know we got to talk about. All right, real quick, because we got about 10 minutes. Let's talk about the Banging on Wax record, and let's talk about. I want you to give the people some tips on how to, record better if you're gonna record from your crib, because I know a lot of people do crib recording. So first, talk about Banging on Wax, because that was a huge record right there.
Okay, in 19, I guess it was 90, 89, 90, 91. Gang activity was at a, crack cocaine had come to town. It was active in them streets. And after the riots, a lot of cats from different sets said, you know what, we gonna kill this shit on bouncing on each other. We gonna do the ops, which was terrifying to police and FBI agents and shit like that. And I think they had a hand in destroying that truce as well. Because the last thing they need is motherfuckers locking up that ain't scared. Because these niggas ain't scared. They on some real fuck the police type shit. You know what I'm saying? So we did the gang truce at South Park, which is a community that I grew up in, the Avalon Hood. One of the oldest Crip sets out here, right? East Side Avalon Crips. It was, and we did that shit at South Park. It was us, the Broadways, the 8-Trays, the Pueblos, the Villains, all that South Park. This is in 1992. This shit is on National Geographic, right? At the same time, we doing this Banging on Wax record with all these different sets. You know what I'm saying? And I thought it was going to be problematic because it was all these different sets, and these niggas was foes, right? But they all came, even though the records sound violent, like they would kill each other, these niggas became lifelong friends. And then they tried to redo the record again, like a second coming, and they called it Rep Your Set. And the reason why I think, in my personal opinion, why that record wasn't successful as the original Bangin' on Wax record is because that Bangin' on Wax records, Bloods and Crips was sitting at the same table writing their rhymes together.
Right.
On that second record, you couldn't schedule sessions with these cats and some other cats and these cats. There's going to be some shooting and some pistol play, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset was different. You feel me?
Yeah.
And you know, that was a very trying time for all of us because we were losing cats while we were making this record.
Yep.
We was losing dudes. You know, cats was going to prison. Cats was getting downed. You know, it was a, you know, my life is so deeply intertwined with the art of music that, I mean, I can't picture myself being a pharmaceutical salesman, you know, unless, of course, I stand on the corner of 51st and Avalon with a jar full of dope.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying?
Hello.
Serving nigga out my teeth. You know what I'm saying? You know,
pharmacist.
Yeah. That was very eye-opening. And for tips at home, you know, it's about, if you can't afford to treat your space professionally, there are a lot of ways that you can cut cost, because what you're looking for is what's referred to as an absorption coefficient. In other words,
talk about that. What's that?
What fabric absorbs what frequencies the best?
Whoo, that's fire.
Now, low frequencies cannot be absorbed. They can only be diffused. So if you're thinking you're going to put a bunch of shit up on your wall to get rid of that excessive bass that your mama finna put you out the house about, wrong, not going to happen, right? So it's about dissipating those frequencies, right? Second of all, is mic technique. Everybody's like, yo, I got to get a U87. I got to get a U47. Why? Tell me why. You just tell me why. Do you think that? Like, I had a cat like, yo, man, I want my shit mixed in Atmos. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
He's like, what do you mean? Why? Why do you want to hear your record in Atmos? Tell me. He's like, because that's what everybody's doing. I said, do you even know what Atmos is? No. But this is what we're dealing with now. That's right? We're dealing with people who are falling victims to marketing. I got mad at my son. My son bought a template from Wavy Wayne. I was like, nigga, I should hit you in your eye. You know what I'm saying? You know who your daddy is, nigga? You know, but I love my son because he does it on his own terms. I'm not fucked up with that. You know what I'm saying? You know, I wouldn't be mad if he went to you and like, yo, Rothstein gonna mix my record. Go do that shit. I would be, nigga, how you gonna go to Rothstein, nigga? No, nigga, that ain't what art is about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that mic choice, you'll find in a room that's not acoustically treated properly, that a dynamic microphone will serve you well as opposed to a condenser, because a condenser mic is more revealing.
Okay.
Condenser mics can hide some shit. I mean, dynamic mics can hide some shit. Also, know your pickup patterns. You don't have to eat a mic. You can be like this. The closer you are to a microphone, if it's set up in a directional pattern of any nature besides omnidirectional, you're going to get proximity effect, which is the enhancement of low frequencies. Right? Come back a bit. Approach the mic like this. You know?
Now, do they got to turn the volume up on the microphone, or
so what? That's what the fucking mic. That's what it's there for. Turn the gain up. But that's why it's important to be in the right space.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Or get a sound reflection filter or something of that nature, right? These are things you can build yourself if you study. But what I find is, because we live in an age where motherfucker can just pick up the phone and be like, yo, nigga, how did you fix this? Yeah. It makes people lazy. Motherfucker, don't call me at 2 a.m. talking about why my shit ain't playing back when you ain't done to do research. You know, like, niggas, adjust your buffer size, motherfucker. You know, you're going to get that kind of response from me because you're a lazy fuck. You know what I'm saying? And I will send you a Cash App request in a heartbeat, fucking with me. You know, but about some bullshit you could have done your fucking self.
I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna just put a request out there when somebody asks me some dumb shit like that.
Dude, you know, you cannot underplay the importance of reading, right? Just like you had to learn. Listening is a learned skill set, just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Look, somebody said they couldn't even figure out how to turn on the phantom power on the fucking microphone. I went to a session, the motherfuckers was singing into the back of the mic. Like, nigga, do you? I was like, why does it sound like it's a blanket on the fucking microphone? I walked in there, these niggas are singing in the back of the microphone. I was like, this brainstorming engineer motherfucker right here couldn't hear that?
Can figure that shit out.
Because you niggas ain't listening. Listening is a learned skill set.
Hello.
Just like anything else, right? I got engineers that come to me and be like, yo, Mike, mix this for me. But nigga, why you can't do it? Nigga, because I'm too close to it. I don't like mastering records that I mixed. I have to give it a week or two, you know, to get away from it. Because when I'm mixing a record, you've given me a palette of colors to paint with, right? When I'm mastering a record, the picture's already painted.
Yep.
I got to find the right frame.
Jim Alert, put 100s in the chat.
You feel
Put 100s in the chat right
you know,
now.
so it's two different mindsets, right? When you're also working from home and your room's not treated, work at low volumes. Work at a low volume level. Everything sounds good loud. That's an old PA trick. Oh, you don't sound good? What about now? Oh, nigga, that's better. I had a button. We had a button on our console at one of the studios I worked with that was called a producer's button, right? It did absolutely fucking nothing. It was connected to absolutely fucking nothing. And a motherfucker would make a request, right? Yes, I do mix in mono. I spend my first 5 hours mixing in mono with a record.
Yeah, hey, y'all throw a question in the chat.
And this button did absolutely nothing. But some people have a need to feel that they've contributed something, right? So they'll make a suggestion that you might say, well, that's the most asinine suggestion I've ever heard, but how about now? Is this better? Oh, yeah, that's much better. That tells you that they ain't listening, that it's here. It's all in here. You know what I'm saying? Right. And we had one of those buttons installed everywhere I went. You know, we had a producer's button.
It sound better now?
Yeah, how's that sound? Oh, that sound, that's much cooler. Gotcha, boss. You know what I'm saying? When I go into a new environment or an environment that's not acoustically treated the way that I'm accustomed to, the first thing I do is start listening to records that I'm familiar with in that environment.
Okay.
Right. I'll start listening to some motherfucking J. Cole or some motherfucking Aretha Franklin or whatever. I'll just start listening to music in that environment. And my attitude is, if their records can sound good in here, mine should be able to sound good in here as well. So I can't use the space as a fucking excuse. Because that shit is banging in here. That shit is banging. So why my shit ain't banging? Another thing that you can do, and this is very simple, you can get an app that measures frequency response. Take your microphone, post it in your listening position, and shoot out white noise. And the reason why I said white noise and not pink noise is because white noise is equal energy per octave. Pink noise and energy changes when you change octaves, right? Hold on, Shad, I'll get to you. So you can analyze your room and you can EQ your space. That's what the Slate VSX headphones are about, right? So it's based on the same principle. When I do live sound reinforcement, the first thing I do is do a spectrum analysis on the room. where the room is hot at frequency wise, and how long is the reverberation time.
Man, Unc, I need to come do a master class. I need to sit and be your intern. Can I be your assistant engineer?
Man, we ain't gonna do nothing but talk shit.
You know that.
Laugh like a motherfucker. Knowing your room, that's right. But somebody asked me a question and I can't see it. Can you see it?
Let me go back to the question. It said, how can I communicate that there's a box in kind of sound around my vocal? It sounds like too much on a high shelf. Is he talking about like a filter on the voice?
It's kind of hard to say, to answer that question, not knowing. If it sounds boxy, then it's how you're recording it. Are you recording in a tight space? You know what I'm saying? Parallel surfaces are a nightmare in recording, anywhere we're recording. So you can do anything to break up a parallel surface, because parallel surface creates standing waves, right? And to break up a parallel surface, or surfaces that are parallel, you can put art, foam, whatever. But what you don't want is surfaces that frequencies can actually stand and not dissipate or be absorbed. I hope that helps. I hope that was helpful.
And then there was a question earlier about how did you feel about auto-tune when auto-tune came about?
I thought it was an amazing tool because it helped a whole lot of no-singing motherfuckers fool a whole bunch of motherfuckers, and all this shit is smoke and mirrors any motherfucking way. When it became, when people thought if I use auto-tune, I'm gonna have a hit record, that's when it became fucked up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But just gonna be two kind of people. You're gonna meet trendsetters, and you're gonna meet trend followers. Right? When you listen to the early Prince records and you listen to his Lindrum, the original LM1, that snare drum is detuned so fucking low, it's almost like a tom. But it had that thing that you know what I'm saying? I just mixed a record for Andre Simone, and it's kind of funny because I done mixed a record for Jesse Johnson. I done mixed a record for Andre Simone. Jesse was Prince's roommate, and Andre was Prince's bass player, right? And all these records were very, very similar. So it made me wonder, did the Minneapolis sound make Prince, and Prince was the one that got the shot to introduce it to the world?
Right.
Or did Prince create the Minneapolis sound? Because all these motherfuckers had a lot of shit in accordance with each other.
Right.
Like the way Andre played bass and guitar sound like Prince. The way Jesse played bass and guitar and drums sound like Prince. So who was who? And Jesse is actually the only one that has a writing credit with Prince. Jesse's the only one. Wow. So other do-it-yourself tips, a microphone, hearing yourself properly, hearing the elements that you need to perform, to give your best performance. You got to hear that. You got to hear certain shit in your headphones. Certain shit you have to be able. Music you're expressing emotion. This is not something that's in a box and you go into the supermarket and be like, yo, I'm going to buy a box of flour, whatever. That's not that. Right. But it has to be an emotional connection to the listener. So you have to create an environment where you can be emotionally accessible. Right? And you got to have things in the track. If I was a singer or a rapper, there'd be certain things in the track that I'd have to hear to drive me to write this, or to pin something in a certain way, or to sing it in a certain way. I gotta be motivated to do that. It's an exchange of communication here.
Right. Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I got one more question that I want to ask you. Now, when you are recording at your house, how come you get?
I don't record at my house because I don't trust niggas. No, I'm kidding.
Well, for those who doing the home studio,
I'm kidding. I'm being facetious.
How can they eliminate that background like airy sound. You know what I'm talking about? Like sounds like crack. Like, you know what I'm talking about? It's just like a bunch of air. Like
Well,
it's like they in the wind.
usually that tells me one of three things, or a combination of the three, that the mic preamp is way too high, right? Um, that's why reading those specs when you buy these pieces of gear makes fucking sense. You got to know the noise that it generates. You got to know, gear has internal noise itself.
Right.
It could be the preamp being too hot. It could be where the mic is actually placed and what the microphone is hearing. Right? Because sometimes the microphone hears shit that you don't.
Right.
How many times have you been sitting in the session, you be like, damn, I never heard that before.
Yep.
If you had $1 for every time you said it, nigga, we'd be having lunch at the fucking Bahamas right now. You know what I'm saying?
Hello.
And mastering, when you start adding compressors and limiters into the game, now those very small, minute things that you thought were minute in the beginning now are becoming major factors that have to be dealt with in the mix. A lot of times when people start making these records, they don't have an end game in their head.
Right.
And with any project, you got to have an end game, right? So what ends up happening is you get to the mix stage and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm overwhelmed now. I got 100 motherfucking tracks. I got 15 types of reverb, 30 different types of delays, 15 motherfucking saturation devices. What the fuck do I do? The reason why you don't know what to do is because you didn't get this shit any fucking forethought. How the fuck I'm gonna go get a barbecue sandwich and I don't even know where the barbecue house at? I'm just wandering and jumping on buses and shit. Hey, you know where the barbecue at?
That's what they lost. They lost.
So having a sonic concept in mind when you do these things, right, will help you in the end game. And a good mix, and I talk about this shit on one of my posts on the gram, and we talk about this. A great mix doesn't start at the mixing stage. A great mix starts at the arrangement stage of the record. Because most of the times, especially if you're dealing with vocalists, most of your information is primarily in the mid-range. From 500 hertz to 9, 8, 10K. Those are high mid, low mid, and everything in between. Oh, that shit, and in a stereo field, you're making space. You're fighting for definition. You're creating textures. You're creating contrast. Right? If everything got reverb on it, then nothing has reverb on it. You need contrast.
Right.
If everything is in stereo, then you might as well be listening in mono.
All right. Our timers let me know I got a few more minutes, but now listen. One last question for me, and then I want you to give us words of wisdom for people who is thinking about becoming an engineer and everything like that. Now, my last question is, how do you feel about people who double or triple or quadruple stack their vocals, whether it's for hooks, ad-libs, harmonizing? How do you feel about?
The first thing I would ask is what makes you think you have to do that? Is it because somebody told you this is the way it's supposed to be done?
That's what they do. They said they
right.
saw.
Here's the thing: what people do. I talk about this on one of my posts on the gram as well. If you think stacking a vocal that is a recorded weak ass performance, when you double something or stack something, it's supposed to be a double of what you just did, right? It's for reinforcement purposes. Why would you reinforce a piece of garbage? If you think doubling or stacking your vocal is going to make it sound better, it's not. If it's a fucked up vocal and you trying to think it's going to sound better because you stack it, you've just exponentially made it worse. As opposed to one fucked up performance, now you got 4.
So just one. All right. So if they're a rapper and they just need one rap, because I've been in the studio with people that one dude had like he did 3 takes of him rapping the whole rap, and I'm like, who told you to do that? So that's why I was trying to ask you as a professional, why would somebody need to record their voice, their verses 3 times in a row the same way over and over again?
You know, now there's a way, you know, when we got the latitude of multiple tracks, now you can do multiple performances and make composites, right? And then do it again, and then, you know, and improve on the quality of the track as you know, make these composites. But just to triple it, see, here's the thing. When it's one track, you with this with the listener. When it's 2 or more tracks, you've done this.
Mm.
You want to make the motherfucker, you want to make the kind of record that draws the listener in, not pushes the listener back. Does that make sense?
Yes, it do. It's good. That's it. That's all my questions. Cause we can talk all night. We got
oh yeah, nigga, I do this.
You
I
know
roll
we could.
one
You
up.
know me and you.
You know I'll roll one
night.
up. We'll get it cracking, nigga. Hey, you know me. I endorse. You know, I look. Check this out, man. I have a friend who's a private grower, right? And I thought about doing that for a living as well, because there's a real art to growing pot, right?
Yep. Hello.
And look at this. This shit is a jewel. Look at this.
Sheesh. Hello.
Right.
Look,
Perfectly trimmed. Perfectly.
That's why we got to get off the chat too, Unc. I got to light up.
Hey, this shit got my whole room smelling like a nigga had a skunk piss contest up in here. And my wife don't smoke, right? My wife don't smoke nothing. Never had a drink in her life. Never smoked nothing.
Wow.
Right? And she like, yo, what the fuck kind of, what shit, what is in that shit? You know, she ain't got a fucking clue. You know, like, yo, THC is in this shit.
Hello.
Right? You don't be mad when I jump in the bed. So, you know, smelling like weed. You know what I'm saying?
Now we got to do the last piece, the last part of this interview. And again, thank you again, Unc, for so much dope information.
Oh man,
so
I had
a history lesson.
We could do this shit all night.
You already know, man. You gave us a history lesson on so many dope things. So, what is this? The last part of this? What is some great information or advice you want to give to any engineers out there that's wanting to get into this field? What can you leave them with for when we get out of here?
That listen to records, and listen to records that you're not comfortable listening to or you're not accustomed to listening to. If you listen to jazz, listen to classic. If you listen to hip hop, listen to a rock and roll record. Listen, always expand on because what you don't want to do is get caught up in doing the same shit every time you do somebody's record. I don't want Rothstein's record to sound like Jimmy's record, to sound like Bob's record. I want every fucking record to be a unique experience. So the only way that I can do that is to listen to all types of influences and be like, you know what? That technique that I used in that rock record worked great on this fucking loop right here. You know? So like I'll do things like I'll take a loop, put it in an amplifier, and then mic the amp. And take the output of the mic back and blend that in with the loop.
Hello.
That gives it a sense of realism and a sense of depth. I do the same thing with drum loops. You know,
that's a gem right there.
We used to do shit back in the day. You ever seen a pig nose amplifier? A pig nose amplifier is about this big, right? It's basically what was created for rehearsing, right? Not loud. We would take a pig nose amplifier and put that on an aux end, like on a bus, right? And whatever we sent, and then we would place that little speaker inside of the piano.
What?
Yes, and then we would mic the piano. So whatever was going into that pig nose, that would be like a source of reverberation, or you know, a source of alternative sound choice that you could blend in to give it some depth, give it some texture. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want your records to have a sameness. That's when boredom kicks in. As a creator, that's when boredom kicks in. You be like, man, I don't even want to, that's when you start running to creative blocks and, all that kind of shit. And, you got to listen, man. Just listening and reading and studying. When I first got into business, I read 9 hours a day. I read 9 hours a day.
Hold on. Say that one more time, Unc. I don't think they heard you.
I read 9 hours a day. I read so much that my grandfather told me, and to a degree, he was right. He's like, son, you're not going to get that job. That's a white man job. They're not going to let you have that job. And to a degree, he was right. Right. At that time, it was a white man's job. At 98% of black records were made by white engineers. I had an engineer basically tell me, he didn't say it verbatim, but he was like, yeah, you niggas can sing and dance, but engineers, that's kind of shit.
I had an artist say they didn't want a black engineer, they wanted a white engineer. That's what I told. They said, no, I recommended an engineer that I knew, and they said, oh no, we want a white engineer.
But
so you're right.
But why though? What's the reasoning?
You already know. It's the brainwashing.
Yeah. For years, I thought Jimmy Douglas was a white man. Jimmy Douglas had been making hit records since he was 19 years old. You know who taught him? Tom Dowd. Google him. And Jimmy Douglas is as black as they get, Drez. Who you think did all them Timberland records? And Missy Elliott records and shit. That was Jim.
Sheesh.
For years before I started making records, I was reading credits about this nigga. I thought he was a white man. That's who did all that slave shit and all of that shit was Jimmy Douglas.
Yeah.
He's not that much older than me, maybe a year, 2. It's funny now because I watch all the young cats and they got their chest poked out like I'm the dopest motherfucker, and I'm dope because I'm this and I'm that, and I'm like, yo, this nigga can't even sing. It's like nigga, I hear this shit and I get it. You in the business, you got to pound your chest. We live in that age, but the market is oversaturated and you got to do something to stand out. And it ain't just your work no more. Back in the day, you could just say, yo, I made an amazing motherfucking record. Listen to it. That ain't it no more. Not only do I have to make an amazing record, I got to make sure it gets to the motherfucking ears of the public.
That's a fact. And that's just as difficult as in anything.
If not more.
Yep.
It's only 5 letters in music. How many letters in business? I ain't taking the time to count them motherfuckers, but I know it's more than 5.
It's more than 5 for sure. So what I'm saying? So now, Unc, again, man, thank you so much for this, man. This was a fire interview. This definitely, you starting off my season 3 the right way. This is my first interview.
I'm glad, man. I just love, I want the people who do what I do or want to do what I do. I don't want them to have or experience the same difficulties that I had in my journey. Right? I want to be the guy that they say, man, this one motherfucker went out of his way to make sure that I was cool. I want to be that dude.
Yeah.
I can't be it to
you
everybody.
You are that dude, my guy.
I can't be it to everybody because a nigga only got one soul. You know what I'm saying? Some of these motherfuckers will bleed you out. Like, hold up, nigga, you got me leaking over here.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying?
Hello.
But the website, FrenkeAudio.com, stay active. I need to update that motherfucker. Yo, there's a couple of cats out there that I want to shout out. My man Iman Omari, he's doing some dope shit. My man King Thurs with a Z, he's doing some dope shit. Il Camille, she's doing some dope shit. This is the shit that I try to stay involved with people who are doing fresh, new shit that's refreshing to listen to.
Yeah.
If I hear one more song about a nigga getting shot or stabbed and a pregnant woman getting stomped out and a bitch twerking on a pole, I'm gonna start twerking my motherfucking self. You know
Don't do
what
that.
I'm saying?
Don't do that.
You know, it's like a 66-year-old nigga wearing skinny jeans. Come on, my nigga. You know what kind of validation you looking for? I mean, you 66 years old. You got on a pair of skinny pants, nigga.
Come on, man. No, man. Stay in your lane.
You know what I'm saying? I just got to do what I do.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
But anytime, man, we can do this any motherfucking
we doing
time.
part 2. We're gonna do part 2 because we got to talk about from the 90s to now. So part 2, we gonna start right at the 90s.
That's when the cars start three-wheeling and sideways and this shit. You know,
we gotta get.
Where the fuck is this?
We gotta get in depth.
Hey, you know, there was one time I heard a record and I said it, and I won't name this record, but I heard this record and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. If this is what I gotta do to earn a living, I don't know if this is one piece of art made me feel like that. And I was like, I already let somebody take the joy of dance away from me. So I wasn't gonna let people take this joy away from me as well.
Right.
So I started seeking out artists that I could be creative with, that I felt was were on the right path of guidance. Because, you know, we might look at this as just entertainment, but music is very influential.
Oh yeah.
You know, we connect to music. Every human being connects to music. Think about it. What would the pandemic been like if there was no music?
Yep.
So in that
sense,
what we do is essential as well.
Hello.
You know, we're essential workers too.
Hello.
If music is played at funerals, at births, at weddings, at motherfucking quinceañeras, whatever the fuck,
anything,
it's music, right? So we should be appreciated a little more.
Yes, sir.
We should be treated a little better. We all need that. We all deserve that. You know.
Sir.
But yeah, man, hit me anytime. I'll probably see you in the morning, though.
You know you're gonna see you in the morning.
I really wish we could do this, like this visual thing.
Yeah.
In the clubhouse.
Exactly.
That would be dope as fuck.
It was not look, I don't want to see everybody ugly ass, but yes,
well, you know, music was a lot better when ugly motherfuckers was allowed to do it. You can't be an ugly motherfucker and do music now, you know. You gotta have a synonym and you know.
Look, bring the big fat people back, because you know
fat people back with the big ass, thick ass glasses and shit. You know, that was singing like a. Nobody ever thought David Ruffin had the looks to be a motherfucking star.
No. David
thick
Ruffin
ass glasses. Nigga, that nigga start singing, women start falling out the balcony and shit.
Man,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you.
So, you know, it ain't about the visual. If your visual is more important to you than what you sound like, be a fucking model.
And we're gonna end right there. No more gyms. We can't do no more gyms. So listen, if you fall worried about how you look versus how you sound, go be a model.
Go be a
and we end up that on the shirt.
You know what I'm
putting that on the
saying?
So again, thank you again. Look, the people still chilling, listening, because this is a fire interview. Oh, well, I gotta go. I got some stuff I gotta do.
No worries. Me too. I got a record right now staring at me like, nigga, you owe me, cuz. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in your pocket, my nigga.
So again, y'all make sure this interview will be on YouTube real soon, because Unc dropped so many gems. Thank you, Unc. I love you. I'll see you in the morning, my guy.
My man.
And any last words, Unc, before we get out of here?
Yeah, man. Whatever you do, don't get discouraged. Don't get, if it's meant for you, it's worth struggling for. It's worth sacrificing for. If you want it bad enough, you gonna get it. I mean, how many we ain't doing it but making records. There's motherfuckers that have made sacrifices to save lives.
Hello.
If you can't make a sacrifice to make a record, you know what I'm saying? This is something that does you more than you do it.
Say that one more time. Say that one more time.
The shit I do is something that does me much more than I do it. What it does for me, you know. Music and got me through times when I was broke, when I was lonely, when I was sick as a motherfucker. Music never abandoned me.
Hello.
My best friends abandoned me. You know, when you're doing well, you got money, you got dope and all that shit, you got plenty friends. But when you hit that motherfucking curve, you hit that curve by yourself.
Hello.
And them same niggas that was in the car with you drive by be mocking at you. Look at that nigga that sunk like a motherfucker, man. I remember he was the man.
Yep,
They don't pull over and be like, nigga, you need a ride?
Talk that talk, man.
Shit, come on, man.
You got, all right,
come on, man.
End it. We got to end right here. No,
all right, okay, I'm gone. I'm
That's
done.
Because you're cooking again.
I'm done.
All right.
All right, love one.
Like, hey, we out. This is the Roth Talk podcast where we talk that talk, and definitely was talking that talk tonight. So make sure y'all follow Make sure y'all hit up for the tips and tricks. And I'll see you in the AM. And again, we out this thing. Peace.
Peace, y'all. Thanks.